you can be called before you're competent, right? Where your calling lies and where your competence lies may not be in the same area. What demotivates, de-inspires, what drains you? You know, what fills you with dread? If I told you you have to work overtime at your job for 3 weeks straight, would that excite you or just kill you? And friends and family, they always mean well, or most of the time they mean well, right? But their advice is not always what you really should take to heart. So I wouldn't search for balance. I would search for fulfillment. If we're in the business of transforming lives, the very best content we could ever create is transform lives.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the opposite. They're so motivated, then they sit down and say, well, wait, I don't know how the hell to execute. Like, how do we execute? Like, I know my gift now. How do I apply it?
We're back with more Evan Stewart in today's YouTube video. The first one we did with Evan was so fire that I just wanted to continue the conversation and really dive deeper into exactly what he means when he talks about obsessed. And he's just got so much knowledge and wisdom for someone so young that I really want to share more of it with my audience. So I'm really excited to bring you more great content from the Real Evan Stewart. And P.S. if you guys aren't following him on social media, you need to check him out on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. We'll throw links in the video description down below, but let's just dive back into the conversation with Evan. What is up, YouTube? Matt McKeever here again with the Real Evan Stewart, and that last video was so fire. I thought let's just really dive into obsession because we only had enough time to really just tip of the iceberg. So let's really dive into obsession.
Let's do it. I'd love to. Well, we talked a little bit last time about obsession being an emotion, a mindset, and a discipline, and but we talked a little bit about healthy and unhealthy obsession. If you're watching, you probably recognize that. And the important thing is there's a couple of qualifiers. The first question that we always get is, how do I know? How do I know where I'm at? How do I know if I'm actually doing, if I'm in this cycle of healthy obsession, or what does that actually look like in my life? And so the three qualifiers, you heard me touch on it in the last video, but it's actually inspiration, fascination, and motivation. And so if you're trying to find your obsessions and really build a life you can be obsessed about, start there. But again, data over drama, right? So inspiration, fascination, motivation. Inspiration is what actually gives you energy at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, where you can be exhausted, but when I am thinking of this, or when I am working in this way, moving in this way, conversating in this way, I get filled. It's a bigger thinking, and it electrifies my life. That's inspiration. It's emotional, but it's okay to have an emotional construct in a data-driven performance, because at the end of the day, sometimes we need that to push us forward. So inspiration is key, and then fascination, what I always use, my simple qualifier is, what's the thing that you can dive into for, well, in your mind, just a couple of minutes, but when you look up, it's actually been a couple of hours. What is the thing that you can get lost in your work without actually feeling lost? That's fascination, because fascination is where it doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like you're actually studying. I mean, we did an amazing weekend. I was so blessed to be a part of what you and Ben have put together. That didn't really feel like work, did it?
No. And you're operating on 3-4 hours of sleep tonight.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, we're going on a couple hours of sleep all weekend, and so you've got a huge audience in Canada. I'm from Dallas, so your cold is a lot different than my cold. So not only that, but it's cold, but it really was a great weekend, but it didn't feel like work. That's fascination. And then motivation is very simple. You don't rise to the level of your expectations. You fall to the level of your systems, your structures, your habits. Archelius said that. And the reason why that's an important quote is because motivation is not a construct of an emotional movement forward. Motivation, I believe, is a construct of the environment that you're working in to constantly keep you pushing at a level that moves the needle. So motivation is the environment that you're working in, the structures that you're working in that are always pushing you forward. Is the environment that you're in challenging you to actually grow, or retracting? Because you can only do one or the other. You talked about that yesterday.
I'm a huge believer in that, yeah.
Absolutely. And then the question that I would always ask yourself and challenge yourself, get vulnerable with yourself, is this question of what specifically. So not why. I don't ask why, because it puts people in a defensive posture. Hey, why'd you wear that hat? Like, what?
What's wrong with this?
I like this hat. But if I say, hey, what specifically about that hat made you want to wear that today? What specifically about your work inspires you? What specifically about what you're doing actually gives you fascination to where you can get lost in your life and your life's work? What specifically about your structural environment do you believe can push you in a way that moves the needle positively every single day? And when you can start finding specifics, you can start finding where those specifics are duplicated in other work. Maybe you're working at a job, you've had that revelation, that tug, and you feel like you need to be going elsewhere. Try to find specifics of what you get inspiration, fascination, motivation, and see how they're duplicated elsewhere. And then you can literally follow that pathway back into this other work to ensure that you don't go from burnout to burnout, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's so many different directions I kind of want to go here with,
Sure.
Let's go in this direction first. So what if someone doesn't know what they're being pulled by? What if they don't feel necessarily inspired by anything? Is it a matter of like digging deeper, or is it possible that a person could be at a stage in their life where they're not compelled or pushed towards something?
Sure. Well, you know, and that's a great question, because there are many people that don't feel like they are being called towards something. Sometimes it's just, I hate my work, and I don't like this, and I don't like my boss, and screw everybody, and I'm out of here, right? And sometimes that's the reality. But the important thing is, if you don't feel inspired, fascinated, and motivated, then you can even reverse engineer from your current environment that's not one that's healthy. Okay, so Matt, you hate what you do as a CPA. You can't stand your work. You can't stand being behind a desk. What specifically about your work demotivates you? What specifically about your work drains you instead of fills you? That's inspiration. What specifically about your work? You see what I mean here?
Yeah,
so what I would recommend is, if you don't know where to go, know what to go away from. You don't necessarily have to know what to go towards before you can go away from. See, here's the thing about a calling, is that you can be called before you're competent. Right? Where your calling lies and where your competence lies may not be in the same area. So you can be you were called to be in real estate before you were competent in real estate.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you were called to be doing something different before you truly knew. Your competence is not always an ability to execute in an environment. Sometimes it's an ability to locate the environment. Right? You were called away before you were called to. And so sometimes people think, you know what, I know I need to be working with homeless in GTA, and I need to be feeding people, and I know this is what, but sometimes people just say, I don't know what that looks like yet, but I know I can't be here for much longer. Like, my wife can't, our relationship will not work if I'm here too much longer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so if that's something you struggle with, reverse engineer from the opposite. What demotivates, de-inspires, what drains you? You know, what fills you with dread? If I told you you have to work overtime at your job for 3 weeks straight, would that excite you or just kill you? That type of thing.
Yeah, that's a great question. So what are your thoughts on like balance? Because a lot of people talk about life balance, and for example, myself, I'm kind of all in right now on my passions, which are this YouTube thing, Cashflow Tribe, my businesses, and very often I find friends and family framing things as like, don't you need life balance?
Yes, and friends and family, they always mean well, or most of the time they mean well, right? But their advice is not always what you really should take to heart. Take all of that with a grain of salt, because they don't understand you. You're the only one that understands you. I don't believe in balance. I'm not looking for balance, I'm looking for fulfillment. Because people that are looking for balance, see, here's the thing about balance, is that you can't say, I worked 5 days, therefore, by default, you should be off 5 days. I mean, balance already structurally in our work week doesn't even exist anyway, not to mention the fact it's like work 50, life is good. That's not really what happens. The problem why people talk about balance is because when somebody says, I need balance, what they're really saying is, I am tired of sacrificing the me that brings me fulfillment for the me that I've defaulted to, and in that sacrifice, I'm finding it harder and harder and harder to actually live in the middle. And so because of that, I need escapism in my life so I can continue getting the energy that I need from the escapism to be drained when I'm working in my current occupation. See, balance is typically a word that people who are unmotivated, uninspired, maybe complacent, or just living a life that they really are not excited about, a life by default, that's a word that they usually will refer to as a way to get them to escape the life that they don't want to live for a little glimpse of something better. I don't believe in balance, I believe in fulfillment, because I'm running on little sleep, you're running on little sleep, right? We're in, you know, for me it's a different country, for you it's a different city, it's a different part of town. We've been pushing. Like, I can still go for a while. We are still going for a while. You know, I mean, this room, it's deconstructed, it's just us in here right now. We're still going for a while because we're finding fulfillment so we can stay in tune and engaged, if that makes sense. So I wouldn't search for balance. I would search for fulfillment. if you can be living a life in your life's work that truly pours back into you, the qualifier I use to wrap up that question is you're tired at the end of the day, usually, right? You can be tired sitting on the couch or tired doing something. I always like to be tired and productive, but either way, you can be tired. What is in a way that you spend your time where you can be physically exhausted, but spiritually full, right? Like I know last night I was pretty tired. You know, like physically, I'm pretty tired, but spiritually, emotionally, ooh, I feel good.
Yeah.
That's usually the first steps, at least, the traces of fulfillment.
Yeah, that's powerful. So when it comes to obsession, good obsession that is, do people have one like life calling, one life obsession, or do people have phases? What are your thoughts on that?
So that's a great question. My belief is that obsession typically goes towards one purpose, and it has different mechanisms to get to the purpose. So it's very rare that you can be obsessed about, to use the example like housing the homeless, and then switch to obsession about, oh gosh, I don't even know, food or something like that. Like it's not, that doesn't work like that. Like if your obsession is housing the homeless, maybe another avenue of that is building houses for impoverished countries, and maybe and really the obsession isn't the housing the homeless, it's finding shelter, food, and water for those that need it, and that's an avenue to it. You see what I mean? And so do I believe that you have more than one true obsession? I really don't, but I believe that one obsession can incorporate a multitude, or nearly unlimited, depending on what it is, unlimited avenues, pathways for you to walk down, which is a beautiful thing about it, because that keeps a life that's engaging. So in your example, no, I don't necessarily think that you can be obsessed about 5 different things. I think you can be obsessed, and maybe you're in a phase of your life that's working in this one avenue. Maybe your phase changes to another one, but if you're truly living a life you can be obsessed about, you're still achieving a great purpose. It's just done in a different avenue. Even me with real estate, I wanted to inspire, impact, and improve the lives of other people. That's what I said as an agent. It just happened that was done through real estate. Now it's done through, in a very literal standpoint, doing things like this. The obsession never really changed. I wasn't able to articulate it as well then as I am now. But the avenue sure changed, because I was over here and now I'm like, whoop, way down over here. The avenue just changed.
Yeah. And so your personal current obsession is the Obsessed Conference, right?
Oh, I love the Obsessed Conference.
So do you mind kind of break it down for us exactly what that is? Because it was fascinating this morning over breakfast. You really started talking about like your passion came through so much on just like all the little details and the experience. Like, so you're not just trying to create another conference. You're not just trying to clone another brand's conference.
No. I mean, the world has so many business conferences and growth conferences and investing conferences, and I love what other people are doing, but other people are doing what other people are doing. And for me, I believe that there needs to be an experience, there needs to be a structure. The question that I always ask is, what do I get through you that I cannot get anywhere else? That's what the customer is thinking. That's what I ask of myself. How do we create an environment that is so unduplicatable that when other people try it, people know it's just a half-assed version of what we did? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so our focus, the tiny little details you're talking about, is really creating an experience, thinking of every single detail. Of course, we've got an amazing lineup of speakers, and I'll talk about our map in just a second on what the next couple of years look like to show how this all plays into the bigger image and the bigger identity of obsession. But ultimately, little things like we talked about how Walt Disney structures his parks, right? So if you've ever been to a Disney park, I've only actually been to Disney World, so I can't in the United States and Florida, so I can't speak about others around the world, but I know there, he structured it like the opening of a movie. So you get off the train, the very first thing you hear are the sounds. You hear people being excited. You hear maybe a coaster or something in the background. You hear just the conversation, the buzz. You move a little forward, and you've got popcorn stands and candy apple stands, and you smell the sweetness and the little bit of sourness of candy and the saltiness of popcorn and the butter and the just excitement and all the things you shouldn't put in your body, but there's an excuse for it because you're at Disney World. And so you first here, and then you smell great smells and exciting and things that take you back to your childhood. And then when you go into the park, you actually walk around something usually, and it's like, boom, right there.
Cashflow Tribe.
Hey YouTube, have you checked out Cashflow Tribe yet? It doesn't matter whether you're an experienced, seasoned investor or brand new to the game. I can probably predict if you're currently not having the level of success you want as a real estate investor, it's due to one thing. That one thing is you're not making enough offers, plain and simple. You need to be making more offers as a real estate investor if you want to hit those big, audacious goals that you're setting for yourself. So here's the deal. Cashflow Tribe, that's the community that myself and Ben were making together. And so Ben's actually so busy trying to provide value to you guys that he had to take off there. But here's the deal. Cashflow Tribe is really a one-of-a-kind community focused on results. That's the difference between us and everyone else. We want to get you guys those results. I'm tired of seeing people commenting on my YouTube channel for 2-3 years now, but they're not making offers. What's holding you back? I'm going to guess that it's either a lack of confidence or a lack of competence. And we cover both of those things in Cashflow Tribe. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make you guys a 14-day free trial offer. You can join Cashflow Tribe completely free, get it tested out. If you like it, great, stay and pay. If you don't, well, I hope you at least find one great idea that you can take away and use to start making more offers, gain more deals, and finally start making the money related to real estate investing that's probably why you're watching my YouTube channel. So let's do this, guys. Let's make 2020 your year.
Cashflow Tribe.
He structured it like the opening of a movie. So you get off the train, the very first thing you hear are the sounds. You hear people being excited. You hear maybe a coaster or something in the background. You hear just the conversation, the buzz. You move a little forward and you've got popcorn stands and candy apple stands, and you smell the sweetness and the little bit of sourness of candy and the saltiness of popcorn and the butter and the just excitement and all the things you shouldn't put in your body, but there's an excuse for it because you're at Disney World. And so you first hear, and then you smell great smells and exciting and things that take you back to your childhood. And then when you go into the park, you actually walk around something usually, and it's like, boom, right there. It's like the opening of the movie. And so we're taking strategies like that. Like at this next Obsess conference, you walk into a room and you can hear, because we've got all the structure, you can smell all the great food and the great things that we have to really stimulate your senses. You walk around a wall and it's a dark room in the back. We actually are having a bright light to ensure that you actually have to kind of look for a second. So when your eyes come to, it's like, boom, you're immersed in the environment, right? We've got, amazing environment. We're in a fantastic music venue, an old bomb factory. And so we're creating, I said I want to create like a concert performance, like a Vegas-ready performance where you would go and just be experienced, stimulation of the senses with the lights and the sound and the perfection. But instead of music, it is tactical, impactful, motivational strategies on how you can live a life that you can be obsessed about. And our focus this year is one of the next 5 years. It's actually called The Source. So another thing I found conferences aren't doing is they say, come to us and learn strategy. And then the next year, come to us and learn more strategy. Come to why? Like, why would I keep going back to learn the same things? And so what we did is we thought, how do we create an environment that inspires, fascinates, and motivates our attendees, which I just explained. I think we will accomplish that again because we did last year. And then B, create a map and a framework for people to follow and stay plugged in a way that allows them to grow with us. And so this year, our concept is the source. How to begin to identify the source of your obsessions. How to begin to identify your gift, your calling, your purpose in a really tactical way. Not, oh, you be better, but like, here are the steps you can take right now to begin to get a deeper understanding of who you are, what that means, why it matters, and how it's applicable to your life and life's work. And then, how do we build a structural and profitable model around the things that you find inspiring, fascinating, and motivating, and the uniqueness that cannot be duplicated in another human being or business? So this year we've got the source. Next year we followed up with the journey. So, okay, you've been working for a little while. What happens when you're in the minutia of your work? The second step of obsession, which is preparation, right? What happens when you're in the preparation season and you're working? How do you stay plugged in, engaged, inspired, fascinated, motivated when you're 5 years in? That type of thing. And then the third, we've got the journey, we've got the source, and then the third year is the destination. One day you're going to wake up, you're going to have some money in the bank. What now? One day you're going to wake up, and when you hit a certain level of success, you no longer want for things. You can just buy. You can buy $1 million houses just like it's a can of shampoo at Target. And what happens then? How do you stay plugged in and stay obsessed when it's so easy to fall out of the cycle of healthy obsession because now you're distracted? So we've got the source, the journey, the destination, and then the fourth, our fifth annual event, but it would be the fourth year in this season. We have what's called the return, where I'm going to take it all the way back and say, okay, moving forward, here's our next steps and strategy on how we proceed with obsessions. So literally, not only is it stimulating, exciting, fascinating, motivating, not only is it super tactical content. People do not pitch from stage. They cannot pay me to get on their stage. Our team looks at the speakers and say, who has spoken truth into our life and business in a way that's so powerful that we could not deny the truth we were living in, and we had to have a paradigm shift and look at our life a different way? How do we bring them to our stage and speak the same into our audience? And so it's unlike other conferences, because our goal legitimately, and I'm not ashamed to say this, our goal is not to make money. We talked about that. My goal is to provide an experience that's so unduplicatable that, yeah, if we make money, fine. But if we don't, that's fine too, because if we're in the business of transforming lives, the very best content we could ever create is transform lives.
Yeah.
And there's just nothing else that can duplicate that.
Yeah, and that's where true impact comes from, in my opinion, also like true legacy. So like I'm a big believer in legacy. One of the running jokes with my team is that my life goal is to have scalpers at my funeral. So like I've made such an impact, there's so much demand that like literally good seats would sell for a lot of money. Also, cool capitalist angle there, but
that's true.
but yeah, there's something really special about combining like the tactics and strategy with also the atmosphere. So I've held conferences myself in the past, and I've always been like nuts and bolts, like just give me the nuts and bolts, and that's the conferences I held. And for the people that were like me, it worked. But I think a lot of people, because there wasn't an emotional connection there, because there wasn't an experience connection there, it fell on deaf ears, or the next day they didn't have the same motivation to go after the conference to really like follow through.
Or not even motivation, and not saying you're doing this, but I'm saying I've seen it be done, is sometimes it's not knowing how. Maybe it's the opposite. They're so motivated, then they sit down and say, well, wait, I don't know how the hell to execute. Like, how do we execute? Like, I know my gift now. How do I apply it? And if those don't line up, there's no way that person will ever come back, because they didn't get what they were looking for, which is a transformed life. And the way that I believe, like we talked about this a little earlier off camera, but my mission is accomplished at an event like that. When you're talking to someone, you're saying, Matt, just got back from the Obsessed conference. I have to, it was a great experience. Man, I can't even explain it. You got to come. Like, I got to, because when you can no longer explain, because there's such a uniqueness to it that there's not a word to define it, that is when our mission has been accomplished. And that comes through transformation, visually stimulating experiences, truly an environment that's unduplicated, and an opportunity for your life to actually get better from people who have truly done it, and not just bought a bunch of ads on YouTube pretending to be gurus, when in reality they have so much money because they haven't bought their home because they're living in mom's basement. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
yeah, that's amazing. Guys, I really want to see as many people as possible out at the Obsessed conference, so we're going to throw a link in the video description down below. I'm going to be there just as an attendee. Ben Humble, CEO, my business partner on Cashflow Tribe, he's actually going to be emceeing the event. And the way Evan and I originally got connected was in Dallas at a mastermind event. And that to me like really shows the power of your network. You guys have been hearing me now for 4 years talk about your network is your net worth, that you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I know that I want to be around people like Evan, and I want to be around people that have the same desires to do what Evan's doing, to make that same impact, to create that same legacy. So if anything's connected here today, I think you guys really need to consider supporting Evan and really just investing in yourselves by coming out to the Obsessed conference. We might even do some crazy things with Cashflow Tribe. So if you guys are in Cashflow Tribe, like we're thinking about like let's just get a whole plane of Cashflow Tribe people and go to the Obsessed conference. So there's going to be a lot of Canucks there, a lot of Canadians. So I really want to see us just show up, because I think oftentimes I find Canadians are a little bit too humble. They're a little bit too modest. They're a little bit too reserved, and they hold back from giving themselves permission to be obsessed. So any last little suggestions on how to break outside of maybe those limiting beliefs or that shell?
Well, my thought process is, what we're talking about is this concept that greatness really follows commitment. Greatness always follows commitment. You can't have a great marriage without getting married. You can't have a great business without committing to starting a business and have it. Greatness always follows commitment. And like with what we're doing, the only opportunity, like I take responsibility for the fact that individuals might have hesitation, because if I was doing this 5 years ago and they went, they would buy without the shadow of a doubt. Like day one, we sold more on day one than we did all of the Obsessed conference last year, because people are like, oh my gosh, we gotta go, and got the right people in the room. And so what I would encourage you and even respectfully challenge just a little bit is this concept of, are you holding on to short-term pleasure, or are you holding on to a greater future? Because on the other side of short-term pleasure is a deeper intimacy with your potential. But if you don't know how to identify and apply, then you're going to be continuing to watch Matt, which hopefully you're doing anyway, and you'll be watching Matt, and be watching Matt, and watching Matt, and watching Matt, and you'll be known as the individual who watches, not the individual who does. The entire reason that we're here, to help build your network for you, to give you the resources and the tactics you need, but to truly eliminate your excuses to where if a better life is something that you're looking for, you can find it. And that starts with you and your gift. It starts with the source. And if it's not, that's okay too, because we're looking for people who are looking for us, and we want to make sure that it's full of the room of the right people, so when you go down and get connected, you know everyone in this room is looking to build vested, positive relationships and better the lives of them and those around them. And that's the type of room that we're looking to fill. So if that's something that resonates with you, I mean, no excuses. Just come on down, join Matt, join Ben, come and see us, some of the amazing keynote speakers. We're about to announce a couple of more actually, and get an opportunity to better your life in a way that hasn't been done before.
Love it. So again, the link in the video description down below. Otherwise, Evan, if people want to follow along with you on your journey, what's the best way?
Absolutely. You can find me at Real Evan Stewart on social media. Super active on Instagram. You can go to obsessedacademy.com and see what we're doing with our company, or obsessedconference.com, of course, which you'll be going to anyway. But you can see what we're doing. If this is something that resonates with you, you want to get plugged in, we've got amazing opportunities to get plugged in with the other great events we're doing with our community. But ultimately, just follow me on social, and I'm happy to start a conversation and a dialogue and help you catapult your growth as you continue to learn from Matt, and we can all kind of walk this journey together.
Awesome. Thanks again, Evan. Thanks again to Evan for taking the time to just, well, I guess first of all, to come out to one of our Cashflow Tribe bootcamp events, which are absolutely amazing. Really encourage you guys to look into them if you haven't done so already. Really appreciate him flying all the way from Dallas just to hang out with us in Toronto. But also, you guys need to check out the Obsessed conference. I'm fully convinced that it's going to be truly a one-of-a-kind experience. Evan speaks with such passion when he's talking about the Obsessed conference, and the attention to detail he's putting into it has really inspired me to want to take my events to the next level. So if you guys are at all thinking about coming out October 29th, I want to see you in Dallas. Let's hang out, let's chat, and let's get obsessed.